Hello everyone, I am Tim, technician here with Golf Cart Garage. We are back for another weekly session of question answering about golf carts and to see if we can help some people out, see if we can save some people some money. It is Thursday, November the 18th, Central Time, 12 o'clock noon. Since the garage is now open, let's get started. That's the question number one. This question is from Arthur. An EZ-GO TXT, bad smell and will backfire if running for 15 plus minutes. I'm using synthetic oil 10W40. Any thoughts? The carb is 2 years old, but it still did it before it was replaced. Do you sell new motors, and if so, what manufacturers? Most likely, what the smell is it could be a couple of different things, but you need to verify whether or not your car is running rich or not. If it's running rich, it will tend to have a smell. Now, if it's been doing that over time, running rich for a long period of time, what I have seen is that the exhaust can get stopped up with old exhaust fumes and old carbon buildup, and then every time after that, when the car gets hot, it starts heating all that up inside the exhaust, and it can create a smell. So, but it could just be that it's running rich. Now, that could be adjusted with a jet change in your carburetor or something. Now, if your car isn't a fuel-injected car, then that would be thrown out of the equation. But you could solve your problem just by replacing your exhaust, replacing your muffler, is what I was saying. All right, number two. I'm interested in purchasing a starter from your company, but would first like your opinion. I have a 2019 Yamaha Drive 2. Intermittently, I hit the gas pedal and nothing happens. Sometimes you hear a buzz coming from the starter, and then you can hit the gas pedal again, and the cart will run and we're able to drive. I've been told many different reasons, but the only one that makes sense to me is the armature has a bad spot on it. The reason it makes sense to me is the buzzing I hear from the starter. I understand what you're saying. That would make you think that that could be. It could be that. It's just that's not going to be common. If it turned out to be a bad spot on your armature, that's not going to be very common at all. The most common thing would be a loose cable, believe it or not, or a bad ground somewhere. You could have a cable that's not grounding. I would check your pedal stop switch also. It might not quite be closing the circuit, and the starter doesn't know if it wants to come on or not. That could create that buzzing sound that you're hearing. But it could be, something like a bad spot on the armature or a stuck brush in the armature. But I would check all your wires first, just for something obvious. Your battery cables, in fact, check them. Make sure your 2 battery cables are tight and secure on your battery. Might want to ohm out the pedal stop switch with an ohm meter to make sure it's functioning correctly, and then we would go to the starter and and start diving into that. Let's see here, number 3. Looking at the Club Car Precedent 3-inch drop spindle lift 303, should I be replacing shocks and other suspension parts? I have an 05 electric. The bottom out bumpers are shot, so I suspect it is all original underneath. Do I need additional bushings or other parts to include? What do I need to realign the wheels after installing the lift? And this is from Ken. I actually remember speaking with Ken this past week about this issue, and what I was telling him is that anytime you're going to be working on your front end of your golf cart anyway, whether you're going to be installing a lift kit or whatever you're going to be doing up there, always check for slack, excessive slack, if you're going to be installing a lift kit. Because if your golf cart has a little bit of slack in it when it's stock and it's regular height, when you put a lift kit on it, it just exaggerates that situation even worse. You might not have even noticed it before the lift kit that you had slack and your bushings were worn out, but when you put the lift kit and taller tires on there, it's going to exaggerate that greatly. So any bushings, like you grab your tire, with your hands, one on right side, one on left, and kind of put pressure on your tire in either direction and look around it and look at your front end parts, and you can see sometimes you can see where you have worn out bushings. You can see whatever slight. You shouldn't have any movement. If you see any movement, figure out where that movement's coming from and replace those bushings. But we do sell a complete bushing kit for a club car. His car was it didn't say in the question there, but I remember it was a Precedent. And so he's going to be replacing all of his bushings before he installs the lift kit. He'll be happy that he did. Number 4. I have an EZGO TXT 99 with a backfire issue. What do you think? I put a new carb on it 2 years ago. Well, if you're satisfied that it's not your carburetor, if you're confident that it's not your carburetor because you put one on it 2 years ago, then you might want to check your valves. Check your valve clearance and have that adjusted. Because that can cause some issues if they get out of whack. There is a maintenance schedule in your manual. I don't remember exactly what it is for checking a valve clearance or how many hours it is, but your car is a 99, so it's got quite a few hours on it. It'd be a good idea to do that. Let's see here. Number 5. I have a Club Car 36-volt 1987 model, bought 18 months ago. Has 5 US 2000 deep cycle and had 1 Trojan T-105. Charged and let sit disconnected for 6 months. Now 3 US batteries are low volts after charging. What did I do wrong? Low batteries 5.19, 4.26, 4.06. The good ones are 6.1, 6.0, and 6.1. Okay. I get this question a lot from people who are snowbirds or have 2 houses in different parts of the country and they're going to be leaving their golf cart for 6 months at a time. Well, that's why I understand that you charged it and you disconnected it. That's the best you can do if you're not going to do any type of intervention to help keep them fully charged. Golf cart batteries want to be fully charged. And if you leave them sitting there for 6 months, even if they're disconnected from everything, they are still going to have a discharge rate. All batteries sitting there on the shelf have a slight discharge rate. They're sitting there discharging even with nothing connected to them. Newer batteries are a lot better at avoiding that excessive discharge rate. But 6 months is a long time. 6 months to leave your battery sitting on a shelf with no intervention and no charging is a long time. I would not recommend doing that. I would recommend figuring out some kind of system to keep your batteries fully charged. Either somebody going over there occasionally during the 6 months, maybe once every month, and unplugging your charger and plugging it back in. That would be one way to do it. Another way to do it would be get another charger that has a storage mode function over the winter, like this Summit 2 right here. This charger is one we sell here at Golf Cart Garage. It actually will go into a storage mode function that will monitor your batteries throughout the 6 months and keep your batteries topped off. It'll keep your batteries fully charged. Therefore, you won't have these issues. So that's your 2 choices I can think of. But 6 months to me, that's too long to let them just sit there without any type of intervention. Number 6 here. How do I hook up a lighter for an inverter with a cigarette lighter plug on a Club Car 48 volt? Well, that's a good question. Sounds like you've discovered something important that people sometimes discover after messing with golf carts for a while. And you've discovered that on a 48 volt golf cart with 6 8-volt batteries, there's no way that you can find 12 volts in that system, and that cigarette lighter needs to be 12 volts. So you can find 16 volts, you can find 24 volts, you can find 48 volts, but you can't find 12. So anyway, in order to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, you have to get a voltage reducer. You can get voltage reducers that will reduce 16 volts, therefore you would hook it up to 2 of your 8-volt batteries. That would be 16 volts. And it would reduce that 16 to 12 volts. Then you can hook your cigarette lighter to the 12 volts, and you would have it like that. But that would be draining those 2 batteries more than the other batteries. So the best thing to do would be get a voltage reducer that reduced 48 volts down to 12. Okay? And then you hook your cigarette lighter to that 12, and therefore it's draining off of the entire pack. and it drains evenly that way. That would be the best thing to do. Let's see, number 7. Recently installed a lift kit on my 2003 EZGO. There's a lot of play in the steering that could have been there prior, but I didn't notice it. Could the yoke on the steering wheel be bad? I believe I just mentioned something about this earlier. When you install a lift kit, it's going to exaggerate any kind of slack or any kind of movement that you had in your suspension beforehand. So that's why it's always a good idea before you install the lift kit to make sure all of that stuff is good. If you've got a little bit of slack before you install the lift kit and then you install the lift kit, you're going to have a lot of slack. And like you said, it may have been there prior, but he didn't notice it. Well, the most common place for slack in an EZGO, and because that's what we're talking about here, is going to be either the tie rod ends, the steering box, where the spindles, where the tie rods connect to the spindles with the tie rod end. That's a real common place for slack, and all you have to do is tighten it back up, and that can take out some slack there. The steering box itself, the rack and pinion in the steering box, can develop some slack. The yoke, what you were asking about, it can develop slack, but that's really easy to determine that. You know, if that's the slack, you just take your steering wheel and look up under your car and start turning your steering wheel just a little bit and see if anything is moving, or see if any, you know, when you turn the steering wheel, you should see the yoke move. If you turn the steering wheel and it takes a second before the yoke moves, then there is some slack there. But that's going to be not near as common as slack in the other places that I just mentioned. So I would check all that first. Let's see, number 8. This is from Alice. After a week or so, I drive the cart over to a neighbor's, and when I stop, of course the engine will stop, and I will drop something off. When I get back in the car, hit the gas, nothing happens. If I come back after an hour or two, the golf cart will start up and I can go home. Then in a few minutes, I get back on the cart and it won't start. What do you think the issue is, and what parts do I need to replace this? All right. Well, Alice, you never told me what kind of car it was. Is it gas or electric, first of all? But I'm assuming that it's gas by the way that your description of your symptoms read. If that's the case, it sounds like you could be getting something could be getting hot, and when you get off of it, when you get off the golf cart, it doesn't automatically just start cooling down right away. It does what's called heat soak, you know, because your motor's still hot, and it could still be transferring heat to an electrical component that's getting hot, and then it gets too hot and it fails, and then so when you come back out, if you come back out too soon and get on your cart, it won't take off. If you wait a long time and let everything cool down, it will. That could be it. It also could be something really obvious. It could be like a loose battery cable that when it gets hot, if it's loose, it could be getting hot too, and that could be losing connection. And so I would want you to check all the obvious stuff first. The battery cables, maybe your pedal stop switch, could be intermittent, but it sounds like something is getting hot and failing after it gets to a certain temperature. Let's see, number 9 here. Not every day, but periodically when you apply the brakes, they lock up and actually skid. Not all the time. It's an EZGO cart. There have been many times in my golf cart shop that I had to remove the brake hubs from an EZGO cart specifically. And you wouldn't believe all the brake dust that would just fall out. What I have found over the years is that when you have a buildup of brake dust that kind of stays inside your hub, it stays in there all the time, and then humidity changes outside, all that brake dust is actually, you know, it could be there. It's literally very fine pieces of metal shavings. They can rust, and then when you hit the brakes, you got rusted metal touching rusted metal, and they can lock up. Well, what helps is that you clean out all the brake dust, and you actually take some sandpaper and sand the brake shoes just a little bit. Just scuff the brake shoes up, just clean them off, and scuff up the inside of the hub and put it back together, and they'll be smooth again. They'll run smooth. Now, That is one thing that I found. Other things that I have found is that sometimes in lifted cars, the brake cables are pulled so tight because the lift kit used didn't take under consideration that you needed to have a little bit longer brake cable, that as soon as you touch the brake, the cables are already pulled so tight, and you touch it and it causes them to lock up. So you didn't tell me if your car was lifted or not, but I'm just throwing that out there in case it is. But it could just need just a brake dust clean out is what I'm saying. All right, let's go to the next one. Number 10. Why would my 36-volt EZ-GO, equipped with 2-year-old batteries, always filled with distilled water and charged after every use, Duracell Sam's batteries go from being able to play 48 holes of golf a year ago, now down to barely making 18 holes? The PowerWise charger appears to be working correctly. Bad cables. Bought when I bought the batteries. Loose cables? Question mark. Just crappy batteries. What do you think? Well, that would be concerning, considering how expensive a brand new set of batteries are. Even the Duracells from Sam's are, they're probably about the least expensive that I know of, but they're still expensive. I'll be honest about the Duracell's batteries at Sam's. I haven't heard good things about them. I don't have experience with them in my golf cart. I do have a set of them in a boat, and I'm keeping my eye on them because I've heard some bad things about them. So I'm not really sure if that's going to be your issue, but the way to verify that would be get a proper load test done on your golf cart. If it's gone from 48 holes to 18 in 1 year, I would want to get a proper load test from a load tester that can load test your entire battery pack at once, not a load tester that does individual batteries. You're going to want one at a golf cart shop. A golf cart shop would have the load tester like what I'm talking about. I would want to get that done, and that would answer your question right there, if your batteries have already degraded that much. That would be a shame, but it could be possible. Okay, number 11. I have a 36-volt EZ-GO cart that is starting to surge, and I have a delayed throttle response. Batteries are new, so there's not a voltage issue. Would it be the controller or possibly a dead spot in the motor windings? I would not say that it's a dead spot in the motor windings. I've never seen that. I've seen brushes, can cause an intermittent issue, but not a dead spot in the motor windings. I wouldn't jump on that first. Because you said it surges and sometimes has a delayed response, in a 36-volt EZ-GO, you have what is called, the type of potentiometer that an EZ-GO 36-volt uses is called an ITS. It stands for inductive throttle sensor. It is literally a tunnel that a metal rod passes through, and that tells your controller what to do. Now, what I have seen happen with those ITS those ITS potentiometers, I've seen a small hairline crack happen right in the front of it, and they end up getting moisture inside there. And it can cause a lot of crazy symptoms. It can cause your car to lurch forward just by barely touching it, because it's the water or the moisture is interrupting the signal or causing the signal that it's sending to the controller to be incorrect, because the controller tells your motor what to do. So ITS would be where I would go first. But they're not very expensive. I mean, they're not near as expensive as your controller. So it's going to either be your ITS or your controller would be my bet. And the controller is going to be, could be anywhere $500 to $800. ITS is going to be less than $200. So I would definitely try that first. Number 12. I'm having trouble getting my club car to charge. The batteries are brand new. When I plug the charger in, it does nothing. But if I take the positive cable off leading to the solenoid, the charger comes on, and when I put the cable back on, it goes off. Any ideas on what to check? Depending on what year your club car is, and depending on your voltage, is this a 36-volt club car, or is this a 48-volt club car? if it's a 36 volt golf car, taking the positive cable off of the solenoid should not make any difference whatsoever in your charging circuit. It shouldn't make the charger come on or make it go off. Now, in a 48 volt club car, you have an onboard computer. I have never taken the positive cable off of the battery, but it's still a separate circuit. The charging circuit is still separate, so I don't see how that would have anything to do with it either. So when you're taking the positive cable off, are you removing the other red wire too, is what my question would be, because there's two wires. If it's a 48 volt club car, there are two wires on the positive cable, and you didn't mention anything about the second wire. So I'd have to have some questions. I'd have to ask some questions of you about your carb so I could help you a little better. Number 13. I have a 95 Club Car Electric. I'm having an intermittent problem with it stopping. I have new batteries and replaced the solenoid and a few micro switches. If I'm understanding you correctly, you're having a problem with it stopping, so that means you let off the gas and the car still wants to continue to roll. I mean, that's the way that I'm understanding your question there. Well, if that is the case, then you definitely need to look inside your V-Glide. 95 is going to use a V-Glide, and it has a cover on it, and you can remove the cover and you can see all the copper contacts. What a V-Glide is, it's got a bunch of copper contacts, and you have a wiper arm, and the wiper arm just goes across these copper contacts as you depress the accelerator pedal. So if you're letting off and the car is still going forward, I have a feeling that your wiper arm is not retracing all the way back to its stop position. It's still on like the first contact or something, if that's what's going on. But it would be easy to see that when you take the cover off. You could visually inspect it and press the gas pedal and watch it happen and go all the way to the end, and when you let off the gas pedal, you need to make sure it comes all the way back to the starting position. Number 14. I have a Jake's lift kit on my 2008 EZ-GO, and the front passenger tire leans inward at the top of the tire. Looking at options on how to fix this. Well, depending on which Jake's lift kit you got, I believe the long travel lift kit may have camber and caster adjustment. That would be what you're describing. But the Jake spindle lifts and just the regular lifts, there's no camber or caster adjustment. So if you have one tire that's leaning in more at the top, then you possibly have something bent, is what my suspicion would be, because both the spindles are supposed to be exactly the same. Everything else is supposed to be perfectly straight. So if there's no camber or caster adjustment, then they should be perfectly straight. If you've got one leaning in more than the other, then you got something wrong. You've got something bent somewhere, is what it would be my guess. Unless there's camber or caster adjustment on your lift kit. I mean, you didn't say which Jake's lift kit you had. All right, so number 15. I have a question, a 2002 TXT EZGO. I am converting from a 36 volt to a 48 volt and changing out the forward and reverse lever to a switch. What do I need to convert from the lever to switch? What you need, I mean, this is a common modification or common upgrade that some people do, is that they change their car to 48 volts, but they love the convenience of the push button forward and reverse. Well, if your car is a series wound car, that takes a mechanical lever type forward and reverse in order to change from forward to reverse. It's a big mechanical that changes polarity, is basically what it does. It changes the polarity going to the motor and you go backwards, but it's a mechanical device. People like the convenience of the push button forward and reverse, but that only comes on shunt wound electrical systems. Like in your case, an EZGO PDS, you know how it has the forward and reverse button is right beside the key switch. Well, there is a way to do it in a series car. You need to look up something on the internet called reversing contactors or reversing solenoids. Either one. They are available. It's a two solenoid setup where you push the button and the solenoids click and that changes polarity going to the motor instead of you having to do a big lever. Just plug in that on the internet, and it'll take you somewhere where those are available. Reversing contactors or reversing solenoids. Let's see. What do you offer for a 1996 EZGO 36-volt car to make it faster? Well, that's funny you should ask. I have a 36-volt 1996 model EZGO that right now it's on 48 volts and it's about 55 miles an hour. So there's lots of things you can do with 36-volt EZGO to make it faster. We offer high-speed motors. We got larger controllers, heavy-duty solenoids. We offer those separately, or we do offer combo packages. You can go to our website at golfcartgarage.com and look at the combo packages that we offer. Your cart is a series wound electrical system in 1996, so you just need to make sure that you're looking at series wound combos, or series wound motor combos. And you could also put higher speed gears in there too. So it just depends on how much money you want to spend and how fast you want to go. One of our combo packs would probably get you up to 22, 25 miles an hour with a high-speed motor, a bigger controller, and a heavy-duty solenoid. So that'd be the easiest way to do it. Number 17. We have a Club Car golf cart we believe is a 2002 model. In order to start, one has to depress the gas pedal all the way, let up a bit, and then push down again. The engine won't crank until this process is completed. Any suggestions on the fix are greatly appreciated. Well, your gas pedal is connected to, the first thing that it's connected to on a gas cart is connected to some micro switches. I would want to check those to see if they're not just sticking on you, like they could be getting stuck, and the fact that you have to press down, you kind of bump them a little bit when you press down and then raise back up, and they pop back out where they're supposed to be, and then you can crank your car. That would probably be the first thing that I would look at. In a 2002 club car, your micro switches are going to be in that same area where your solenoid is. It's under that box with a lid on it. Just look in there and press the gas pedal. You might want to ohm those switches out for continuity, just to see if you've got one that's intermittent operating, or just press them with your finger and you can see if you got one that's possibly sticking. Because if it's sticking, it's not going to make the solenoid click, and the solenoid is not going to turn the starter over in order to crank the motor. So those micro switches have to be working to activate the solenoid, which activates the starter generator to turn over the motor. So that's where I would look on that first. Let's see here, question 18. Having issues with a 2018 Precedent. My cart won't run, it just sits there and idles, getting fuel and spark. Push the gas and it won't go into the running gear. All right, I believe I understand what you're trying to say there. You're hitting the gas pedal and the car's just turning over. The starter generator is just turning the motor over. Well, that's not actually idling. That's just, it's trying to crank. And you're telling me that it's not able to crank because the car's not going to go forward, which you may have been calling your running gear. It's not going to move forward until the engine cranks and turns enough RPMs for the clutch to grab the belt, and then it will go forward. So just because your motor's turning over when you hit the gas pedal does not mean that it's running. It's not running. It's just like on a car, on an automobile. When you take the key and you turn the key, your engine tries to crank, but it's not cranked until it cranks up. It's not considered that it's running. So it's the same thing with a golf cart. When you touch the gas pedal with your foot, it's just like turning the key in an automobile. It's all you're doing. You're trying to crank the car. So it's turning over with the starter generator, and it's not cranking. It's not starting up. All right, that's the way that I'm understanding your question. So you said you're getting spark and fuel. Okay, well, there's one more thing that you have to have. First of all, let's go back to the fuel for a second. It's easy to verify that you're getting fuel to the carburetor. Okay, that's the first thing you need to do. But you also need to verify that you're getting fuel past the carburetor, into the engine. And an easy way to do that is to take the spark plug out, make sure it's good and dry, put it in, try to crank the car again, and then take it out, make sure the spark plug's wet, make sure it's getting gas on it. So you've already checked for fuel, you said, you verified fuel, and I'm assuming that you verified fuel to the carburetor. We need to make sure it's getting past it into the cylinder. So you got to look for a wet plug. If you are getting past the carburetor into the cylinder and you have a wet plug, then the next thing that you need to worry about is you need to check compression, because you got to have those three things in order for the car to crank. You got to have fuel, spark, and compression. Two common things that would reduce your compression drastically all of a sudden would be a catastrophic failure with your rings. You know, you could have busted a ring or something in the cylinder. Another thing is that a stuck valve. If you could have a valve stuck, one of your valves could be stuck open or closed. That can cause loss of compression. So that would be what I would want to verify next. I'd want to verify two things. Make sure you're getting fuel past the carburetor into the cylinder, hitting the spark plug, and make sure your car has decent compression. Let's see. That looks like about it for the questions. Let me jump over here to Facebook and YouTube and see if there's any questions. Looks like there are. Is there a way, this is from Keith Arnold, is there a way to put an alternator on a gas club car carryall? Well, an alternator. You're talking about just a regular automotive alternator that I'm sure there would be some way that you could spin, you would figure out some kind of way to mount it to spin a regular alternator to produce a certain amount of voltage. But I'd be curious about why you're asking that question. What are you trying to accomplish? Because you already do have sort of an alternator that's charging your battery. You know, your voltage regulator, and in conjunction with your starter generator, is charging your battery. So you have a certain amount of voltage available for you to use for accessories. Are you just trying to get more voltage available for some kind of bigger device, or what? This next question is from Tracy Runyon. How do I add a USB to a 2016 Yamaha golf cart gas? Well, if the USB is designed to be hooked up to 12 volts, like if it's an accessory for a car, an automobile, or an accessory for some type of vehicle, it's most likely designed to be hooked up to 12 volts. So you would just hook up the USB to the battery in the golf cart, because the golf cart uses a 12 volt battery, the gas golf cart. You would just hook up positive and negative to the positive negative on the battery, and you would just hook it up that way, and then your USB would be fine. But you would just check it, make sure it was designed for a 12 volt system. So that would be easy for you to do. Let's see. That looks like all for Facebook. Let me jump over to YouTube, see if we got anybody over here. Yeah, we do. We have somebody here. Let's see. This is from George. I just purchased a 2005 Club Car DS gas. The engine compartment's very dirty. Would it be okay to pressure wash this area? I can tell you this, I wouldn't pressure wash that area. It is okay to wash that area, but and even then, be careful around the carburetor and the air filter. You know where it sucks in air. You don't really want to flood that compartment with water. So I'd be careful around the air filter area. But I would avoid pressure washing that area, because when you start getting pressure washers on a gas golf cart, you're going to get water in some places you don't want to. So just spray the engine compartment down first with some degreaser all over the place. You know, pretty much all over the place. You could put some kind of degreaser cleaner in there, and then just rinse it off under normal pressure, not exaggerated pressure. Let's see. Let's see, Keith said he wants more voltage because he uses it in a campground. A lot of very Low speed driving. Well, that shouldn't make a difference if everything's working correctly. You're saying that if you, because you're going too low of speed, that your battery's not charging correctly. It sounds like what you're telling me. So that shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't matter that you're driving around at a low speed. It still should be charging your battery, and you still should have a certain amount of voltage to play with. So I would have to have questions about your car, Kenneth, to make sure that your battery's getting charged correctly. Because I think you might have another issue if that's what you were talking about with the alternator. Okay. Look at YouTube one more time. I'll get somebody else on YouTube here. Jack wants to know what speed would I expect out of my 2000 EZGO 36 volt. How do I check speed? Used to 48 at the course. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Now, a lot of people are under misconception about 36 volt cars and 48 volt cars. 36 volt cars in stock configuration and 48 volt cars in stock configuration. They are actually not, one of them's not faster than the other just because it's 48 volt. You're depending on which car you have, which year car you have, or which model it is. Did you say, you didn't say if it's a PDS or not, did you? If you're 2000 EZGO, no, 2000 would probably be a DCS. I think they didn't start PDS until 2001. It's either a DCS or it's just a series wound car. Well, if it's a series wound car, regular golf cart speed is probably somewhere between 12 and 14 miles an hour. So you can download one of those free apps onto your smartphone and clock it and see if it's 12 to 14. If it's 12 to 14 miles an hour, then you're probably in the normal range. Now, if your car was a PDS, which is 1 year newer, I believe, that can be adjusted up to with just some different chips in the controller. They call them chips, but they're just little plugs is all they are. There's 4 different plugs that adjust the regenerative braking aspect of the car. And they also change the flat ground speed a little bit. It can be adjusted with the highest speed, flat ground speed plug. It's called the Freedom plug, and this is only for PDS cars. You know, it can be adjusted up to about 19.6. So if you had that, that's what you could do. But if yours is a series car, 12 to 14 is going to be normal. So I'd check that out. Let's see. Let's see. Looks like that's going to be about it for me today. Don't forget, you're running out of time to enter for the Extreme Golf Cart Makeover that here at 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝐺.com. The deadline is November 20th. You only have about 2 more days to enter to win $3,000 in store credit. You can do your own golf cart makeover with $3,000 in store credit. So don't forget to go to 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝐺.com to enter to win for that. Also, if you're having golf cart issues and you feel like you need to speak to somebody directly that might have experienced your issue or might know something about it, like myself or one of the other technicians here at Golf Cart Garage, just go to 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝐺.com, look for this link, the Gearheads on Demand link. It's on the homepage. Click on it. You'll see all the available time slots. Pick one that's convenient for you, and either myself or someone else will call you at that time if you schedule it for a phone call. If you think it's something that we need to see in order to be able to help you, you can schedule a video session. What will happen then is that you will pick available time slot that would be convenient for you, schedule the video session. We will send you a link to whatever device that you receive text messages on. It could be your iPad, it could be your smartphone, and we will send you a link at the time you picked, and you just click on the link, and then we'll be there. And then I can take control of your camera, and I can see what you're pointing at, so I can see your golf cart. That way you can, if you don't know how to explain what your issue is, maybe me seeing it would help a little bit. It's not always necessary, but sometimes it is for me to see your car. It's kind of hard to help sometimes some people's problems just over a phone call. So if you feel like it needs to be a video session, that can be done too. So just go to 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝐺.com, look for this link on the first page, and schedule a call with me. I'll see you then. Well, since we are out of time here, we've gone through all the questions. The garage is going to close now, and we will see everybody next week. Thank everybody for coming. Thank you for all the questions. We'll see you next week.